While walking down the lanes of Mumbai, the young Riyaaz Amlani, who was out on a date, could not find a coffee shop. So the cafes so ubiquitous today were absent back then, and that was Amlani's first taste of an opportunity. Years later, while working as an executive who helped set up bowling alleys, he decided to pick up the cup of entrepreneurship. In 2001, he started Mocha, a cafe styled on the Moroccan public coffee houses. 20 years later, that coffee house called Mocha near Churchgate in Mumbai has transformed into a house of brands, Impresario, which now operates a network of 57 restaurants across 16 cities in India. And the list of brands started by Amlani are too many to name at one go, from the popular hangout for millennials, Social, the fine dining Smokehouse Delhi, to a cafe run by staff with hearing and speech impairment, Ishara. Amlani has mastered the psychology behind how young India wants to eat out. In 2017, L. Catterton, a global private equity firm backed by luxury multinational company Louis Vuitton, acquired a majority stake in Impresario. The investment helped Amlani expand at a faster clip, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns. But the pandemic arrived to pull the tablecloth from under the plates, and so it did. But as home delivery kept the taste buds going, Amlani set up cloud kitchens for delivery-only brands Boss Burger, Hungly, Lucknowi, and Goodness to Go. More such brands are on the way. From hiring dabbawalas in Mumbai to home deliver food to launching an outlet in Dehradun, there is a lot cooking at Impresario. Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shireen Bhan, and it's great to have Riyaaz Amlani back here on Young Turks. The CEO and Managing Director of Impresario Handmade Restaurants. In fact, he first featured on Young Turks way back in 2006. Riyaaz, thanks very much for joining us, and it's good to have you back.
It's great to be back. Where did all this time go, huh? Yeah, not so young Turk, I guess.
Yeah, once a young Turk, always a young Turk, but you're right, the time has flown by. Riyaaz, I want to understand from you, what have been the big changes that you've observed in the past 2 decades of getting into the hospitality business and where it is today? I mean, forget the last 18 months. That's an entirely different ballgame of how the industry has had to deal with COVID. But I want to understand from you, over the last 2 decades, what have been the big shifts that have shaped where the industry is today?
My God, you know, it's been a sea of change, really. When I started off in 2001, you couldn't find a really great restaurant outside 5-star hotels, right? So if you wanted to go somewhere between lunch and dinner, your options were either to go to a 5-star coffee shop or to go to a ODP restaurant, and there was nothing else around. There was maybe 1 or 2 fine dining restaurants that were existing outside 5 stars, and there were not enough options for you to visit. And I think in the last 20 years there has been a revolution, and I think customers are now spoiled for choice. And there's more of everything. There's a super specialization in every cuisine that you can think of. You know, you have Northern Italian, Southern Italian. You have so much specialization and regional cuisine. So it's been a kind of almost like a Cambrian explosion in restaurants in the last 20 years.
Yes, it certainly has been an explosion, hasn't it? And as you talked us through the kind of opportunities that have opened up for entrepreneurs really to focus on specialization, to focus on premiumizing the hospitality business here in India. But I want to understand from you, how much easier has it gotten for people like you to really do business in this space in India? What is the latest in terms of the license count, for instance, that's required to be able to open a shop in India?
Well, it's still one of the most regulated businesses that you could hope to be in or hope not to be in. We still need about 26 different licenses and NOCs just to be able to sell a sandwich. But having said that, a few years ago, we were dealing with about 36, but now it's down to about 24 to 26, depending on the city you are in. You know, one of our challenges is we don't have a uniform code for restaurants. It differs from state to state, city to city, municipal limit to municipal limit. So it is still a very complex regulatory framework to navigate, but hopefully, you know, things will get a little easier in the future as we continue to lobby as a industry to get a single window clearances and ease up on the regulations a little bit. It's getting better, but it's taking its time.
Well, you're down from 36 now to 24 to 26 licenses required to open a sandwich shop, as you point out, Riyaaz. We hope the pace picks up on that. But, you know, speaking of the changes as far as the ecosystem is concerned, and you're one of the big beneficiaries of the change that we've seen with respect to capital coming into this business, capital coming to back ventures like yours. What has that meant in terms of where this industry now is poised for growth and expansion?
Well, you know, Shireen, my father was in the restaurant business, and he ran this very iconic restaurant called Berries, and he ran that for 20 years. And at that point of time, he really believed that if you want to succeed in the restaurant business, you got to do everything yourself. You have to sit, you know, on the galla every day and be there on the shop floor every day. I think from then there has been a major change in the way people think. Restaurateurs who, you know, have one successful restaurant are no longer satisfied with one successful restaurant. You know, they are thinking in terms of scale. And I think that has really kind of seeped in to the new entrepreneurs. Right? They're no longer satisfied with running just one outlet or one store. I think they're thinking in terms of scale and how we can scale up as quickly as possible. So I think that's been a big shift in the way all businesses are thinking, and restaurants are no exception. I think everybody now wants to have multiple restaurants in multiple geographies. So it's a really exciting time, and I think the Indian consumer, you know, has really kind of presented themselves. They've shown that they are hungry for brands, and I think the new age Indian entrepreneur is going for scale. Is no longer satisfied with just one or two restaurants.
Okay, so if you believe that scale is the new mantra, and we are looking at different ways of being able to achieve scale. Yeah, you were talking about private equity. Go on, Riyaaz.
Yeah, no, so I was saying that the interest of private equity now in the food services space, in all its manifestations, whether it's QSR, whether it's micro retail, or whether it's casual dining, has really kind of been able to enable, it's acted as an enabler for young entrepreneurs to kind of think in a much larger scale.
Yes, the private equity capital certainly providing the much needed boost when we talk about expansion and scale for India's food sector and food industry. But Riyaaz, you know, I want to understand from you, you talked about scale, you talked about expansion, capital is now starting to come in. There are various models, franchise or otherwise, that entrepreneurs are considering at this point in time. But what are some of the challenges of being able to scale, especially given the fact that we continue to be in a situation, not just from a regulatory point of view, but also from a high rentals perspective, you know, rentals extremely high across the country and per capita still, in comparison, fairly low?
That's absolutely right. I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges which is facing the food services business. Rentals in tier 1 cities are comparable to some of the most populous cities in the world. I think you can easily compare some rentals in Bombay and Delhi to rents in London and New York. So that is a big challenge because the rentals are the same, but the spending power parity is not quite there yet. I mean, here we would still, you know, the sweet spot really is about a 800 rupee spend per person, whereas internationally in some of the big cities where rents are equivalent to Bombay and Delhi, spends are about 2,000, 2,500 rupees per person. So yes, there is the rental component is there, but that's kind of offset because the labor and the human resources in India are cheaper. So it kind of sets off. But yes, the regulatory framework remains a big challenge. So while we are scaling up, you have to have different laws in different cities. So that always is a little bit of a challenge. But I think overall, the food services business tends to operate in the 20% store operating EBITDA. So I think that kind of balances out with, you know, higher rentals but lower manpower costs in India.
Okay. Riyaaz, I want to understand